Good one.
That's got to be known in Cheektowaga. So,
do you want me to deliver the first lines of that and you deliver the punchline?
Okay, so now they're on YouTube.
if you want to do that joke.
I said Facebook.
Shh, I got to work on this.
See,
now they're on Facebook.
It's PG rated, you know.
Yeah, but it is kind of
Colorful.
Yeah, a little, well, not so much colorful, but
Off
a
color.
little racist or, you know.
Everything's racist
I
nowadays.
know, or a little bit, you know.
Okay, Facebook is ready when you guys are ready.
Richard, am I supposed to clap the clapper?
That means, okay, so you are ready to go on the air, right?
You ready to go on there?
Yes.
You are ready. Okay, so there's a switch in front of you that says on the air.
Glasses. Okay. Should I switch it on now?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
Okay, so you are on the air. Your timer has started. Put the clapper in front of your face. When you hit the clapper, you're on the air.
Hello. How are you? My name's Gordon Blake, and this is Higher Powered Radio. And tonight I have a really wonderful guest, Chris Borkowski, who's a Buffalo friend of mine for quite a few years now, and a friend of our excellent producer here, Richard's. And Chris is an artist, producer, and developer. And all of us in this room actually share some really good memories of media study and the arts in Buffalo. And we were just speaking of, you know, connections that we never knew we had from back at festival. Music was what I knew as Jerry Nathan. He knew his sons, and one of his sons just dropped by his mother's house the other day, and actually his dad...
Stepfather.
Oh, your stepfather.
Yeah, stepfather was his lawyer.
Was his lawyer.
Represented him, as well as Harvey Weinstein as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the concerts he was telling me that, you know, the comps that Nathans would give to people, and I had told him, or our manager, we asked him to get tickets for this new band that was coming out by the name of Led Zeppelin, and they were playing at Kleinhans Music Hall. So we called him the day of the concert and said, Fred, did you get those tickets for us? He goes, oh, yeah, I forgot. What was the name of that band again? I said, there's Led Zeppelin. He goes, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. He called Mr. Nathan and said, okay, go to the ticket office at Kleinhans when you walk in. And we walked in, and Mr. Nathan gave us, there were 5 members of the band and dates, so it was 10 tickets. Third row orchestra pit for Led Zeppelin. We were like 15 feet away from them. The first performance in Buffalo, and it was just captivating. Chris was telling me some of the concerts that you...
Yeah, a lot of concerts. First of all, the Nathan's super generous family, really kind people, salt of the earth. You name it, during like the mid-'80s in Buffalo, if Festival was, you know, booking that show, just ask and they'd give you tickets and really good seating, and if you wanted backstage passes. So like I'm not sure if that band Led Zeppelin ever made it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
But I ended up seeing like The Who, Pink Floyd, every sort of big act of the 80s, Rolling Stones that came through Buffalo. It was just ask for the tickets, and he'd be like, here you are.
Yeah, festival was Lord, and that was a great time. Very early media study, though. I've seen clips and stuff. Actually, my friend had one of the first video cameras and he was staying at the hotel that's right near the new UV campus, and whatever it was. And we came out of the room, and we were going to go into the car, and he said, let me make sure that my video camera's working. And he's playing with it, and all of a sudden, out of the doors of the place, this limousine pulls up, and out of the doors come the Rolling Stones. So he's, I go, David, the Rolling Stones. And he turns around, they come out. And I was standing there for a while because there's supposed to be 2 limos. He's all the time filming it with his video camera. I'm going, this is going to be like priceless video. Excuse me. And it goes on, and they're standing there waiting. Eventually, they start talking to us, and we're going, oh, how are you? And Charlie Watts, he was really personable, and Keith Richards was. Mick and Ronnie seemed to be having some sort of a discussion, or there was something going on between them. But and we stood there for like 10 minutes while he's supposed to be videotaping this thing. The limousine comes up and pulls away, and then we go, oh, let's get in the car, we got to go to the concert. When we get back there, he's playing with his video camera, shooting like the grass and stuff. I'm going, David, you got to look at this. He goes, oh my God, I got to get this. And what he thought was turning on his video camera was actually, he'd shut it off. So all you can see is him swing to the door, and you can kind of see people coming out of the door, but the rest of it was all on off. So
every videographer has the shot that got away.
Yeah.
And photographer, yeah.
Speaking of video now, did you study under Tony Conrad?
Yes, I did. I was a student there, and then I actually, like 4 years later, I came back and worked with him. I was part of the professional staff at Media Study, and I also taught classes as well. So, jumping a little bit ahead, I graduated in '96, and I came to work for the Department of Media Study in 2000, right when they moved into, I should say, they moved into the CFA in 96 or 97, I believe. I came into the department when it was just sort of like getting the funding from the school that it needed. Like they kind of figured out, like, this media stuff might be really important with this internet stuff and stuff like that. So the class that sold the most seats was one that I was assigned to teach, and I had a couple other classes called Intro to New Media 1 and Intro to New Media 2. So I knew Tony, and I also would run into Tony. After I left Media Study, I moved right to New York City and began working for the Guggenheim Museum, and then showing my own art and stuff like that. And I lived in Brooklyn, Crown Heights, which is kind of a hop, skip, and a jump over to Williamsburg, where Tony had his studio. And so it's a small world, I would run into Tony quite a bit, and he'd throw some really great parties in his studio, which is like right down on the waterfront in Williamsburg.
Beautiful.
So I did not make it to Tony's funeral, though, but I had just moved back to Buffalo like a month before.
Wow.
And one of the reasons why is I'd spent 28 days in a rehab, and I just wasn't really in shape to sort of see all my former peers and associates and friends and be at a funeral, like, still kind of raw from the, doing, recovery. And it's certainly that, looking back, it was probably probably a good thing to have avoided that at that moment, just because you kind of have to move your life around, people, places, and things. The things that, like,
trigger the.
yeah, it's a total trigger. I kind of regret not going to that funeral, but I had to do what I had to do at the time.
Yeah. And they were great as Richard and all of us. The media study was like the place to be. I just actually, my memories yesterday, Dr. Gerald O'Grady's obituary came up. Mm-hmm. And he actually, those people, Tony Conrad, Paul Scherritz, Jerry, Dr. Gerald O'Grady, made media study the place to be. And it was in the mid-'80s, and then became like even bigger, I'm sure, at the new campus. Speaking of that, I have actually a Paul Scherritz story and a Tony Conrad story. Paul Scherritz, I used to tell him, I used to hitchhike a lot in the 60s, and he said, you told me one time that you could get anywhere you wanted to go if you had $10 in your pocket, because I would hitchhike to truck stops and drink coffee and converse with the truckers, and then get rides in their trucks, and they would call, through the convoy thing, get me rides. They say, I'm pulling a very interesting guy here. I'm pulling over at Lodi, Ohio, and he's going west. And there would be another semi would pull up behind him. I'd jump out of one semi and get a ride down the road. But to shorten the story, I went to California. Paul said, if you want anybody to produce these plays and stuff that you're writing, or do anything with the filmmaking that I'm teaching you got to go to California. They're not going to come here to Buffalo looking for you. And he says, here's $10. Man, you told me you could hitchhike anywhere with $10. So I did. And I went out there. It was in 1989. And
this is the year I graduated from high school.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I left, and I kind of I'd been working on the play for the homeless living in Buffalo, and I was sort of upset I had a resentment towards the city of Buffalo, because people would drive by me in their cars that I knew, they knew me for years, and they would be staring at me, and then I would turn to look at their reaction in the car, and then they would turn their head as if like, oh, I don't really see this person. And I said, here I am, homeless on the streets, that I had planned to Living Theater to bring the awareness of homeless people when there weren't much. But anyway, so I left Buffalo, and I didn't come back for 7 years. There was no internet, there was no cell phones at that time, or very few. That a homeless guy couldn't afford me. And I came back to Buffalo on a Greyhound bus and took the bus from the bus station up Elmwood Avenue, got up at the corner of Delavan and Elmwood, which is like just a block from Paul's house when he lived on the corner of Ashland and Lafayette. And I was walking past a little Chinese restaurant, and there's Tony Conrad. And I said, he goes, where have you been? I said, I've been in California. And he says, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm making progress. And he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Paul's house. And he said, Paul's dead.
What year did he die? It's got to be like early 90s?
95, 96 maybe, around that time.
Earlier than that, I think, because I just had missed him at media study.
Oh, Paul Scherritz?
Yeah, and I think I started media study at 92.
Okay, then it could have been. I was out of touch, as I said, and he said, Paul's dead. And he could see my reaction to that. Mm-hmm. He was like my filmmaking mentor, and I picked up the art films from him, and he introduced me to Stan Brakhage and just numerous others, and we'd go out for dinner, and we'd go to the Sign of the Steer after classes and sit and just talk, film and just his life, and I knew Tony Conrad from media study, where he was very, very regimental and very, you could pitch things to him and you could say, no, I'm not going to let you take the independent study. You know, I'm not going to let you do that
He-
and stuff. And then he saw that in me, and I just saw a whole human Tony Conrad that came out. And when he realized that I didn't know that Paul had died, and he was just breaking this news of his death to me, as I was walking to his house to see him, and
he was a stickler for education, like very formal, structured. Whereas his music, there's no structure to it at all.
yeah,
You know, it was complete.
He had those two sides, and it was
Yeah.
to see the warm side of him. I always appreciated then his response to me not knowing that Paul was dead, and his concern of my feelings, and it was really like, wow, you know, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Said, you want to go and have coffee or something, you know? And I think we did. I don't know, Wendy's or whatever used to be on Elmwood Avenue.
I don't think people would know that about Tony unless you took a class with him and you had to do work for him. He could either, you know, not take an interest in you probably and just let you be a slacker, but if you were trying to apply yourself, he would sort of in kind, you know, make you work for it. Like really rigorous reading list. I remember the one course that I took with him was the Cultural Studies Anthology, which is probably its critical race theory of its day. Like, which critical race theory is like the hot button issue. It shouldn't be whatsoever, because it's not being taught in grade schools, and it's like an 800 level college course, but it's not as controversial as it's made out to be by the right wing. But the reading in cultural studies, which was Tony's book that he taught out of, was some hair-raising stuff in there. It's, you know, the whole breadth of, you know, gender studies and queer studies and pro-pornography, anti-pornography, really wild, cutting-edge type of reading, and, you know, you had to apply that in written work in his class, and so it was really challenging, and he's really a formalist in that sort of way. But I'd never met Paul, and I kind of wish I did, because he was a wild man.
Yeah, he was.
And, you know, everyone...
A brilliant wild man, but he was just...
Everyone has the Paul drinking stories in the episodes and stuff like that. And, I mean, looking back at, you know, my time, I would have appreciated that in some way, because I love to drink, you know.
Yeah, me too. And right before, maybe 2 years before he left the school, I came in one day, and Marguerite was the secretary for media study, and she said, now, I don't know if I can say this to you or not, but I know that you go to those meetings, and whatever meetings you go to, would you please see if you can get Paul to come to them? So one night when he was living there, I was going to Lafayette Bidwell, which was my, you know, day, Odette one day at a time, Wednesday nighters, Sunday nighters, you know, the old timers thing. And that's who I actually took him to, was old timers. I said, Paul, you want to go to a meeting with him? Much to my surprise, he said, yes, most certainly. Yeah. So we walked down, and it was in the Lloyd Library of the church, which had this like huge grandfather clock and all these beautiful Oriental rugs and antique furniture, and I used to call it the two-ton Bible. It was like the biggest. It was like that thick on this big wooden. You couldn't move it. It was on a big wooden thing, and it was old timers. And he hit it off, and he got sober up to the point when I left town, like 2 years before I left, and. Yeah, he was, and he knew it, and we'd go out, and he wouldn't drink. We'd go to, you know, and get something to eat, or what was the Cecilia's? Is that where the place on Elmwood?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it's not ringing a bell.
That was when I he took me to dinner there right before I left to go to California. And that at that time it was like so different from any structured educational process I'd ever gone through. Warren Enters was very close because I did 3 years of independent study playwriting for him. He taught me the craft, and it was just one-on-one, like as if we are now. I would come in and talk to him about my ideas, and he'd say, well, write it and bring it back, and then we would sit there and he'd read it and give me his critique on it, and tell me where I should change a lot of what I was attempting to write, and that's the way it was with Paul. But everything else was always just that instructor in the front of the room that kind of said what they said, kind of half caringly, whether anybody was listening or not. And you had these little things that you recorded but they were so hands-on and personable to one-on-ones, or just sitting down with you in the student lounge and talking to you about projects and techniques, and showing you hands-on how to use a film editing machine, which was like ancient, and
yeah. Gerald O'Grady was that way. I remember I was late on a paper and he told me to come over to his place, which is an absolute mess, but I mean, came over and he was teaching a course called Symbolism in Film, and the reading for that was like he photocopied like a stack about a foot high of the most eclectic readings you could imagine. The actual material of the course was phenomenal. I ended up writing a paper about Apocalypse Now. I mean, because that was kind of my speed.
Yeah.
And I loved that film. It was one of the first films as a child, I kind of snuck away and caught it on HBO really late at night when I shouldn't have been watching it. And I was captivated by it. And it's a dense film. And, it came up and it neared the end of the Symbolism in Film course I took with Gerald O'Grady, and I'd really kind of, again, another class that demanded a lot of work, reading and writing.
Yeah.
And I gotten really behind, and I was a freshman, and Jerry was like, well, just come over my place, we'll talk about this paper, and I'm like, really? And sure enough, he helped me out. I mean, I still turned the paper in late, but he cared enough to sort of walk me through the process of writing that paper.
He was an incredible man. I was homeless, working on a play for the homeless maybe year 5, and I I was writing in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was sleeping right next to River Charles by the bridge that comes into Harvard. And at that time I had called Paul, and he said, you should see Jerry. He's left University of Buffalo, and he's now the chair of Harvard Film Archives. Mm-hmm. So I went, and he was in his office, and it was like the July 2nd maybe, and I told him I wanted to go to see the Hat Show where the Fiedler, it's a famous thing where he would conduct the thing in the fire. He said, film the fireworks. That's when I was using video and shooting under my trench coat because I was shooting the homeless, and that's the only way I could shoot them, because if you Paul used to say, yeah, of course, man, the only thing more dangerous than pointing a gun at somebody is pointing a camera at them. You're going to get the most adverse results from these people. So I went there and listened to that, and I walked back across the River Charles, the bridge, and started shooting the fireworks, and it was the most incredible. There was a firework thing that shot off that made a peace sign up in the air that I've never seen before or since. And I filmed it, and I said, Dr. O'Grady is going to be so happy about this. And I turned around and he was standing behind me smiling on the bridge over River Charles. And he went in there and he said, I want you to see this. He goes, you're a playwright. Eugene O'Neill's probably most famous thing is A Long Day's Journey into Night. And it's a story of his life story. And the film came out. It was starred Jason Robards and Katharine Hepburn and incredible people. But it came out the day before World War II started. And then when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, all the theaters went dark because they thought their next step was going to be to bomb the mainland. Mm-hmm. So it was up for 2 nights and never got shown again. Got kind of, put on the side, and he showed me the most incredible film. Sitting in the Harvard Film Archives theater, just me and him running the projector and showing me the film. Mm-hmm. But those guys are. I mean, that's what they mean. I'd never run into instructors like that at all. Very.
It was an approach that I took later on when when I was only teaching in media study for 2 years, but it's something I always remembered. And one of the courses that the chair at the time, Roy Roussel, allowed me to do was called Sound and Image Design, which is really just a fancy name for video art. And I was teaching courses like in real time, like video manipulation and video mixing and VJing and stuff like that, and all the sort of remedial sort of vocational skills you needed to do like a live show or video, like large scale video installations. And part of the coursework was actually they did several shows over the course of the semester. So I was booking them in, pure like rookies who had never shown their work in public. So I was booking them at Sound Lab in the Carnegie Art Center here in Buffalo, and getting them involved in exhibiting. But there's a lot of production and making, and also showing. And I got really involved with the students because that was what was done for me years ago.
Excellent.
But I was just thinking, like hands-on. I'd mentioned I'd never met Paul, but in some weird way I did. When I graduated from media study, I did a short stint as a producer for a political consultant named Joe Slade White and Company, who's one of their. They had a lot of clients. One of their clients was Joe Biden. But I left that job because I was offered a job at Hallwell's Contemporary Art Center as their technical director, and it paid just about the same amount, but I was given a lot more freedom and reign to sort of do what I would want on the side. And part of their facilities is they had a gallery, but they also had black box theater, and then they had a small 16 millimeter video theater named the Paul Schertz Theater, and they did all their film screenings there. That wasn't like on 35 millimeter or big release film. And they also had a video library, film and video library that they had acquired throughout the years, and they had a lot of 16 millimeter cans of Paul's work. And I remember getting it out, and I was helping the Birchfield Penny produce one of their shows. So they're doing a dual projection piece that Paul had made. And I was going through our archives for some reason or other, they were looking for something or other, and I opened up one of Paul's cans. It was probably like a 50-foot can of 16 millimeter film, and there's all these handwritten notes in Paul's handwriting, like how to project this film, because his films just weren't, you turn a film on and you play the reel. You know, when it's multi-projection, you have to set up a whole bunch of different projectors and project it a certain way, and there's suggestions and stuff like that. That was the closest I ever got to Paul. I have a photograph of it somewhere, and like I opened it up and I was like, oh wow, this is his handwriting.
Yeah.
So I took it over to the director. I'm like, is this Paul's handwriting? And they're like, yeah, those are Paul's notes. So that's the closest I got to him.
Wow. Well, you progressed, and I'm honored to have been in the rooms when you walked in, and I just to see, you know, you go from where we all go from, you know, it's in this fellowship. But where you are now is just incredible, and I thank you so very much for being on our show.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Anytime.
I think the girls are coming in right this second. Here comes Sal.
Okay. Are we gonna switch seats in motion? Keep the show going?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what we call.
I'm gonna
Are you sitting in, or?
I'm gonna move over one.
Joe, slot here?
This is the musical chairs portion of the show. Da 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 da.
Let's leave it back and sit in. Joe, you come over here. And Lindsay, you take that one, and you take this one.
Good to see everybody.
How you doing, Gordon?
I'm well, and if you'd be kind enough, Sal, as I'm the
Yes?
the absolute genius and expert of forgetting names, would you please introduce these young ladies? for
Of
me?
course. Over here we have joining us for the very first time at Beyond the Mainstream Productions and here on Gordon Show, Joe Ann O'Donnell, right? Did I say it right? Okay, good. And over here we have Ann Burka and Lindsay Schroeder, okay. Lindsay Schroeder. And I'm Sal Monaco, and this is Higher Power Radio.
Yes, it is, and this is Gordon Blake's Higher Power Radio. And I'm going to ask Sal to bring up my script and my phone for me here. And we're about to do, this is a new group of actresses for Sal's group, and it's Beyond the Mainstream. As I said, it's a brand new thing, so people in Higher Power Radio land, I just saw the glitch.
Well, this is Joe's first time performing with us. Ann's been with us for about a year. Lindsay's been with us for, is it about a year? Yeah. And they've both these two have both done both film and audio plays, and they've both been in the films that won me the 2 awards. So, and they're all, and Joe and I just did a improv show this past Saturday, and it was really well done. So, Joe, why don't you say hi to our audience?
Hello.
She's quiet when she's not performing. I've noticed that. But we also performed at the NCCC Film Festival, and that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit of improv there too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, make sure the mic is 4 fingers away from your mouth.
Okay, Sal, I'm going to interrupt you. Is this start?
Yes, I do the introduction. So let me hit on. Okay, folks, we're doing something different that we've never done. We're going to do our radio play here on Gordon's show rather than on my show this week. So
This is new to my show, a radio play. So
yes,
we're expanding horizons.
here on Gordon Blake's. Is it Gordon Blake or Gordon Caspar?
Gordon Blake is Gordon Blake Higher Power Radio.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you girls ready?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. River, Mercedes, and Jolene are together in the school cafeteria waiting for Mr. G.
So, what are you guys doing here?
We're waiting for Mr. Garrett. He's looking for ideas for his new comic.
Possibly a new comic movie.
I would love to give acting a try, but I have an idea for a new superheroine.
I've been talking to Kasumi about it. She's a popular comic artist, and Mr. Gator gave her start.
I've been working with my niece Melanie. She was Kasumi's assistant for a while. She has a good career of her own as an artist.
Jules works in a gaming and comic book shop and reads a lot of comics. She talks about them a lot with me and the other country girls during our barefoot walks. I came up with the idea for a country girl superheroine. Let's see what he says.
My idea has elements from the DC The New Guardians and Marvel's The Gifted.
Mine is a more sophisticated hippie hero.
Mercedes, you should be careful. The New Guardians has some very nasty, offensive characters.
Really? Who?
Well, to start, Snowflake, a villain whose powers came from snorting cocaine.
Yeah, and he had the ability to get people high just by touching them.
Jolene, does your hero get people high to keep them from committing crimes?
Very funny.
They also had a monster called Hemogoblin, a vampire goblin who gave people AIDS.
Plus, the way they handled the ethnic characters, one was a white supremacist. They killed the Russian by having him shot by the government for no reason. They stoned the Muslim girl, again, for no reason. And don't get me started how they handled the gay gentleman.
No wonder it was canceled after 12 issues.
The sequel was better, but this could have been a great series if it had been handled better. Same with The Gifted. Fox dropped the ball on the TV series and it had a good cast.
Mr. Garrett enters.
All right. What I hope you have for me is a new superhero comic, because I believe that if you girls can come up with it, we can turn it into a blockbuster film. And I'm just hoping that you have something good for me here. I know we'll talk about it, but first we're going to order lunch. It's on me. Order what you'd like.
You can order it off the app. Someone will bring it out.
Okay, bring me some of those spaghetti and meatballs. No, give me, please. Can I have spaghetti with meatballs? I heard so much about.
Bring me some mashed potatoes and French toast.
Teriyaki chicken, please.
Bacon cheeseburger and onion rings.
Okay, let's get down to business.
Did you get a chance to look at my audition tape?
Yes, and if I'm not mistaken, you call yourself an actor, right?
Well, I don't know if I call myself an actor.
Oh, boy. Okay. Oh, geez. I don't like to be critical of anybody, and but yeah, you have promise. Let me put it that way. You have lots of promise, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Whatever you're doing is going to be good. As long as you come up with a superhero that I'm able to make into a blockbuster film, and from that point, I'm going to be happy. Until that point, I'm probably going to be very negative and very hot-headed, and I'll try not to be very critical. But anyways, if I say you're an actor, you're an actor.
Okay, I'm an actor.
Believe me, I believe you'll be a good actor.
Thank you, Mr. G. You're amazing, astounding, stunning.
I'm just kidding. You were good. I'll consider you for my next film.
Thank you so much, Mr. G.
You forgot stupendous. Anyways, next I want to see how much you girls know about the comics before I look at your proposals.
We're very big on trivia here.
Okay, let's start with Lake.
River, sir?
Oh, River, I'm sorry. Whatever, here's the question. What car did Tom Swift drive?
The Thunderbolt Grease Slapper.
Oh my gosh. Correct. Now Buick?
That's Mercedes.
Oh, Mercedes. I'm sorry. Yes, whatever. Your question is, what are Marilyn and Wendy's last names?
Marvin White and Wendy Harris.
Good. Now, Hippie Girl. I was a hippie as I was a going boy. But anyways, your question, who was Superman's first villain?
Luther?
Wow. No. The Humanite girl with water in her name. Let's try some TV questions. Who was the first actor to play a live-action Superman?
Nicholas Hammond.
No. Danny Seagren.
The guy from the electric company.
I guess that counts.
Car Girl. Who played Morgan Le Fay in the first Doctor Strange movie?
Jessica Walter.
Hippie Girl in the TV shows Mr. Terrific and Captain Nice. How did each one transform into superheroes?
One used a pill, and the other one a formula.
Good, very good. Now movies, who played the original Punisher?
Dolph Lundgren. He was also played He-Man.
Amazing, that's fantastic. Okay, good. Now next, how much did the first Fantastic Four movie cost?
$2 million.
You girls are amazing. This is surprising me quite a bit. And good, what actress played Catwoman in the first Batman movie?
Julie Newmar?
No. Lee Merriweather. But that's an honest mistake. Okay, the test is over. Let's hear your ideas.
My heroine is a country girl.
What are her powers?
She can manipulate the environment. Water, dirt, air. Plus, she has themed weapons like pitchfork, hay bale, and corn cobs.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, very grassroots, down to earth. Yes, I like that. I really like that. What's the origin?
Still working that out.
Good idea. Keep working on it. Next, Hippie Girl.
My hippie hero has the ability to make people do what she says just by asking nicely.
Sorry, sounds too much like Superman's full starshine. He gets people to do things by saying please. You're going to have to try again.
That character was from the late 70s, early 80s.
Very good. Okay. Car Girl, what do you have?
A group of nerdy teens set themselves up as guardians of their town.
Wow. That's a good concept. A change on, how people think that teens are don't know what to do. But how so?
They do neighborhood watch. They volunteer at soup kitchens and look for lost pets, to name a couple.
Yeah, go on. I'm liking this.
Then they discover a way to get superpowers and become real superheroes.
Yes, it has a lot of potential. Let's talk more about it after lunch.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I guess she won.
Let's do an idea together. We can beat her.
Yes, we'll be the villains to her hero.
And the end.
All right,
Gordo?
I think you guys did good, yeah. I'm sorry,
Thank
it scrolled, and I was like, it was way at the end, and I was in my second line. I couldn't get back up to the top.
Well, it was Spider-Man, not Superman.
Oh, well,
that Nick
by the time
Cameron
I
played.
did find it, what
Yeah.
she was saying, I was like, I tried to ad-lib as much as I could. I was going like, oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I should just skip it and go to the next part or
Yeah.
what was going on.
Well,
So
I kept
just,
kind of saying, oh, well, you know, whatever. Very good, though. That's impressive, and it's great to have new artists on my show. You know, mostly I have
Thank you.
very seasoned people, but it's, you know, it's the newcomers, the lifeblood of any, especially film and television, and we have to accept, you know. We can watch reruns, but the new projects are the one that really come, and the new ideas and the new people who, you know, are starting from the bottom, that we can also help and have them progress in this industry. And it's a great industry. I can't argue with success. I mean, there's people that make like astronomical amounts of money and then progress from Tom Cruise or one. I think he owns a real lot of his new film, you know, which is and carrying ideas and keeping true to himself and doing his own stunts. And, you know, it's a whole thing. I mean, there's a lot of new actresses, but, you know, there's some that really, really shine. And I think you girls, you know, are doing great. You're coming right along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lindsay did a movie for the 48-hour film festival project last year, as well as being in my film, and did a TV series last year. What was the name of it again?
Unusual Attraction?
As well as being in my film.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, Joe and I did improv on Saturday. What other things have you been in, Joe?
I kind of just moved into the area, so I've been doing some student films and some plays lately.
Where did you move from?
I was going to university at Purdue.
Both my cousins are Purdue graduates, Chris and David Mason. But anyways, yeah, they've done really well for themselves. Right on. And, well, we have a summer coming up. I'm going back out west to hopefully work on a new project from the person, the creator of Entourage and director of Entourage, which I'm looking forward to. I don't want to disclose much about it. And it is always in film, if you do, it always seems as if you talk too much about what you're hoping to do, it usually doesn't turn out the way you like it. So if you just kind of keep mum and work your thing, you know, constantly, it's always good to read, act at any chance that you get, you know, doing whatever. It's going to, you know, bring your game up every time you do it that much better. And Sal's coming along a long way from seeing. I remember he gave me a ride from a film I was in, and he was doing production for that, and though I was immediately impressed by them. Actually, I thought, geez, these guys are a great production team. I would like to, you know, if I'm shooting in Buffalo, I'd like to have them on board for whatever my project was. And now Sal is, you know, doing his own projects. He's
Yeah, I've done 13 features and over 30 short films and umpteen number of these audio plays. And we won 2 awards, and Gordon and I were both mentioned in a book done by our friend Sue. And it was really well done.
It wasn't under the index of 4-letter words, was it?
No. No, it was totally positive.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, and it's a pleasure. Actually, I'm staying with Sal while I'm back in New York here, and it's been a pleasure. We watch some old things at night, and I get incredible ideas, and just the minimalist themes of we've been watching Twilight Zone, and they were such incredibly impressive things to me. As I started watching when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old. My dad was watching it. I said, oh, and But the acting is just so incredible for, just a couple people's, and the thoughts of the stories and so on. They're just great, it's, everybody wants all these, explosions and, huge things going on. And they were just done basically in black and white with very sparse sets, if any set at all, and just little kitchen rooms and I think it's a good idea to get back, as the Beatles said, and not worry about all special effects and then just go with, actresses doing, if the writing's good, the material, you don't have to have explosions and bombs going off and cars flipping over and going off sides of buildings or whatever happens in those films. I really stop watching when there's too much going on. Like, it's just like noise and distraction. But yeah, I think you guys are starting. It's a good place to start, and maybe look back. How long ago was Twilight Zone? 60
Well, the
years ago?
first one was in the late 50s, and then the next one was in the 80s, and then the next one was in the 2000s, and then the last one was about 2 years ago.
But the ones we're watching are the 50s ones. Right?
Yes.
And they're so, what could be, really good today they'd change from, all that going on. And
Yeah, an entire season worth of Twilight Zone, and it was an hour long. I think it was season 4, but the other 4 seasons were half-hour long.
which is, let's face it, we're a generation, of probably multi-generation of people with very short attention spans, And that half-an-hour format is, it's, okay, I can do this. It's not like taxing on, we're busy people, whatever, we have to do this and that. And if you don't, then you don't really keep up with the rest of the people. So,
Yeah, you said things were pretty rough out in Hollywood since COVID, right?
well, yeah, the unions are trying to correct them, but see, so much power is given to the studios and the film companies that, I guess it was for safety things, but there could be so many people on set, and because of the food thing, and they feed you like a king on set, it's just swordfish and prime rib and, beautiful salad, better than I've ever seen in a restaurant. And, you would go and get what you wanted, and there's always so much in craft service. Every 15 minutes, the new craft service, and they have to feed you every 3 hours, or you start getting paid, which is called meal penalties, which is 15 for the first 15 minutes periods, so 45 minutes. If they're late and serving another meal, then the last one's $45. So they feed you a lot, but if they aren't feeding you because they want to continue shooting, then you're making like more money by the second. But because of the pandemic, and the possibility of somebody transmitting or diseases, they stopped all craft service, and the food was like a cafeteria, and then they still would only let 4 or 5 people on set, so basically it was like, say, Sal and I were doing this scene, or you two girls are doing this scene. It would be you two, and then a director and a cinematographer, or a director and cinematographer, and that's all this. You don't see anybody else, and so they're making huge amounts of money, but a lot of people aren't working. It's very hard to secure anything, and I needed the break anyways because I was working. I used to I used to be able to plan it where I would book myself, like, say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because you work like 18, sometimes 20-hour days. And they get 3 days of that, 20 hours, that's 60 hours you worked in 3 days, but you get recalls and stuff. And I was getting burnt out because if you're working like 80, 90 hours a week, and it's not physical work, but it's mental work, and studies have showed that actors and actresses and musicians and that, it's far greater on stress on their body than it is for somebody who's like even digging a ditch or something, you know. It's whole mental stress. So it's, I needed the break, and I loved it. I moved to Long Beach, California from Glendale. I was up in the mountains to the sea. I'm like 3 blocks away from the ocean, and if you ever get out there, come to see me. It's the Pacific Ocean, 3 blocks away, and the Queen Mary, the big giant cruise ship, is 3 blocks away. But it's Long Beach, and it's a cool town, and I know you guys probably all like this music more than I do, but I do honor the people. Snoop Dogg is from Long Beach, and all those, if you watch Super Bowl, they were performing on top of all these different buildings, and they were all buildings that are in Long Beach, like famous hamburger stands, and who went to high school 3 blocks away from me is Cameron Diaz. She's went to Cal Polytech, or Long Beach Polytech. And Nicolas Cage also is from Long Beach, who I wrote for a lot of years, actually. And he's just a very helpful person. And you will meet him out there. You have to kind of approach him and, of course, try to be as polite as you can. And you're going to meet some real down-to-earth people, you know, that, just very helpful. And I hope you guys all get out to California and enjoy what you can do. Practice your trade and go out there and do your thing. Who knows, you may be the next person that buys a $16 million house up in Beverly Hills. You know?
Yeah, how much does it cost to join Screen Actors Guild now?
It's expensive. It's actually, I just happened to see where I believe they raised it. It's $3,800 initiation fee, which is good if you make a lot of money. You know, a lot of people join it and they don't really pursue their career. So then